Hakadosh Boker Or Masechet Gittin Daf Daled Amud Aleph 54a1. The Gemara is talking about that the Bnei Israel, right, says Rabbi Nema Ani Omer, why am I going to say b'Shabbat b'Shogeg Yikayim Mezid Yaakov? Why do I say that on Shabbat? If you did something b'Shogeg, you're going to leave it there, but if you did it b'Mezid, you have to uproot the tree. By Shvi'it, whether it was done b'Shogeg b'Mezid, whether it was done purposely or by accidentally, Yaakov, you have to uproot it. Because they count for Shvi'it, but they don't count for Shabbatot. Says the Gemara, Davar Acher, and this is where meaning that people count from the Shaviot, right? They count when is Orla, when is Nitirevai, when all these things, so therefore it can make a ramifications, the differences, and actually change a lot of things, and therefore it's more strict for the Shemitah, more than even than the Shabbat. Davar Acher, another explanation. Nechshedu Israel ala Shavi'it, velo nechshedu ala Shabbatot. What does that mean? The Jews were suspected of the Shavi'it. And since the Jews were suspected of the Shavi'it, so the Shavi'it is Shemitah. It's called Shavi'it is Shemitah. So since the Jews were suspected on Shavi'it, they made an extra stringency that even if you did it b'Shogeg, you know what? You're going to have to uproot it. Right? So he says, but on Shabbat, they weren't suspected of being Mechalel Shabbat. So therefore, they didn't have to say all these things. They didn't need to make such a knas. Meaning that they only came and made certain knasot or certain types of penalties in things that they suspected that the Jews were doing. They're not going to suspect they're going to do that. They don't need to do that. You understand? Fine. My davar acher. What does it mean, davar acher? Hachi kama. This is what it means to say. Vechi teima. Now if you're going to come and you're going to say, Shabbat nami, also Shabbat, right? When you're going to plant on Shabbat, there's a suspicion that maybe people are going to come and start counting afterwards. Sometimes it's going to happen that 30 days come out on Shabbat. 30 days before Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbat. And that's when it's going to be the years of Orla. That if you plant it on that day, right, when it's going to come the year, so those 30 days is considered one full year. Vilo, right? If you didn't plant it there, it's not considered a year. Okay? Everyone understood what happened? One more time. Orla is 3 years. 3 years, you're not allowed to benefit from the tree. You planted a tree, you're not allowed to benefit from the fruits for 3 years. What happens right now, if you're going to come and you're going to plant it 30 days before Rosh Hashanah? So what happens is if you planted it 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, it's counted as 1 year. So therefore, that 30 days came out on Shabbat. Which one?
So that internet.
Yes, exactly. No, Halakha Moshe Sinai was that 30 days before you have to stop plowing for Shemitah.
Yes,
it's a different halakha.
So the 10 saplings.
10 saplings, which means you have to, no. So if you have 10 saplings within a small area of a bet food, you're allowed to plow until Rosh Hashanah. There's a different halakha. Orla. Orla is you're not allowed to benefit from the tree for 3 years. When do you start counting the 3 years? If you planted a tree 30 days before Rosh Hashanah, coming that Rosh Hashanah, it's already year 1. What happens if those 30 days before Rosh Hashanah came out on Shabbat? No, so basically the guy who wanted to put it on Shabbat, right? Why? Because if he saves a year. You understand? Because if he's going to plant on Sunday, he just lost a full year. And a full year, not just the understanding. So he's going to gain a lot.
The day before?
No, Friday for sure. Because if it's going to be 31 days, even more than for sure. But he forgot. And also he said, today's the 30 days. Shabbat, what's he going to do? But he's going to save an entire year. You know what that is? So he says, Tashema, Davar Acher. That's why we went and we said, Nechshedu Yisrael al-Shavi'it, velo nechshedu al-Shabbatot. That's what he says. If a person's going to remember that this Netiyah B'Shvi'it, and they're going to see that they didn't obligate him to uproot it, there's a chashash, he's going to come and he's going to plant it on Shemitah, but they're not going to suspect that he's going to do it on Shabbat. Even though you're going to gain so much of it, we're not going to make a knas because people are not, meaning Shabbat is Shabbat. People are afraid of Shabbat. Shemitah is, Shvit, it's Shemitah. It's okay. It's a lower level. The Rabbi Yehuda Lakashia, there's no stira in that which we learn between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yehuda, which means Rabbi Yehuda in the Braita, the first Braita says that if you're going to cook on Shabbat by accident, you're not allowed to eat it on Shabbat, right? Because it's a knas because of mezid, right? That means you're only allowed to eat it on Motzei Shabbat. And in the other one that he talked about, that when you're going to plant something on Shavit, right? They didn't tell you to take it out. He says, what's going on? They're both Toraita. He says, Be'atre de Rabbi Yehuda chamira lehu Shavit. In the city of Rabbi Yehuda, they were so stringent on Shavit, they didn't need to make this knas of shogega to mezid. Meaning, it all depends on, meaning these are all knases. Knas is a penalty, a fine. Fines are only depending upon the places. For example, right? They want to come and they see there's a lot of speeders. What do? Right? But I'm just trying to bring it down to earth. Yeah. So if right now they say, what do? Instead of having a regular penalty of, listen, if you're going to speed, you're going to get a fine of whatever it is, $60, $80, $100. What do? $200. You say, what? But that's what they want to do. Because if they see that there's a lot of speeders, they have to cut it down right away. Let's say it goes back down that they stop speeding, and now it's only once. So then they can relax on the penalties. Why? Because you understand. And the same thing goes with anything. Parking tickets. I remember parking tickets used to be like $25. You understand? Right? Now it's much higher than that. Right? Understand? Now why? Because if they come and they see that there's so many parking violations, so they come. But that's besides the other part that they probably want more money and they want to they like to fill up their pockets. So that you have to justify things. But besides that, once they see that there's so many people that are going against it, they have to buff up the stringencies and the knasot in order to make it applicable. So the same thing, Rabbi Yehuda. Sorry. Thank you. So Rabbi Yehuda in his city, since they were so machmir and shavit, they didn't need to make such a thing. Somebody said to his friend, right, and this is the place where Rabbi Yehuda lived, Dayar bar Dayarta, Ger ben Gioret, Amar lei, he went and he told him, Ana lo achli pere de shvit kevatach. Right? So somebody came and he said, listen, right, you're a Ger ben a Gioret. Right? There's a whole thing here. What does that mean exactly? Right? But he basically was telling him, look, you're not even Jewish or that. So he comes and he says, no. He says, fine. But at least I don't eat Shavit like you, which means that the Surah Shavit was so stringent, the guy didn't care if he's a Ger ben Gioret, but the other guy that's he's eating on Shemitah, he's like a goy. Mm-hmm. He's like much worse. He's like, what is this guy? Okay? Fine, but that was Dafka. So the city was so stringent in Shemitah. Okay, Tashema, another proof. Achal trumat me'ah, meshalem holin teorim. Imagine what happens is if you have a zar is a stranger. So if you have a stranger that he's going to eat trumat me'ah, remember, Kohanim have a special status. What does that mean, a special status? Kohanim, they're the only ones that are allowed to eat truma. There's many special statuses for Kohen, right? Some of them is truma. Others is, right, birkat Kohanim, right? Only a Kohen could do birkat Kohanim. Nobody else could do a birkat Kohanim, right? Others is aliyat Kohen. If you want to give an aliyah to a Kohen, right, it's only a Kohen that gets the aliyah, right? If not, it's Israel Shenanu Kohen. But you don't call him aliyat Kohen because he's not a Kohen. Only there's certain halachot by Kohanim. So here it says, imagine right now a stranger ate truma, right? Beshogeg. But it was Torah, obviously, right? It wasn't, he echal trumat me'ah. He ate trumat me'ah. Now, usually trumat me'ah, you have to burn. He came and he ate this trumat me'ah, but he did it beshogeg. He has to pay back the Kohen tevuah, which are chulin tehorim, and they become like the truma. So he has to pay back something tahor, not tameh. Means even though he ate something tameh, he has to pay back something tahor. Shilem chulin tmei mahu. Whatever do you pay back something which was tameh? Amar Sumchus says Sumchus in the name of Rabbi Meir. Beshogeg. If it was beshogeg, which means he didn't know that the perot were tmeim, tashlumav tashlumim. It's a good payment. It's a good repayment. Right? It was just a chobah. Okay? But if it was done b'mezid, it's not a good, meaning if it was done purposely, it's not considered a good payment. That's the shita of Sumchus. Here he says, right? The kavanah is, okay, we're talking about that he has to pay back like something which is tahor. Okay? However, the chachamim say echadze v'echadze, it's always a good payback. The chozerum shalem, right? Tchulim teorim. That means even though he came and he paid back and it's a good payback, the rabbis gave him a penalty. What was the penalty? The knas? Shu tzarich lachzor ve'leshalem chulin teonim. He has to pay back again. So he's paying back twice now.
To make it a little more clear, the footnote says, when you say it's a valid payment, which means you can take that money, it's his, you can betroth the woman with it.
Exactly.
Even though he has to do it again.
100%. Yeah? But more than that, because the person's money, meaning when he paid him back, but now there's an extra knas. So basically the guy's paying back twice. Imagine you're the Kohen. I ate the Trumat Me'ah. I didn't realize. So now I come and I take Chulin Tumeh and I give it to you. All of a sudden I realize, 1 second, it was Tameh. So he says, you have to go back again and pay back now Chulin Torah. So basically you get paid back twice. Okay? Va'avinam. So we're going to ask the following question. B'mezid, if he did it b'mezid, amay tashlumav tashlumin, why is it not actually considered, how do you call this, a good payment? Tavo alav bracha. He should have a bracha, because he ate from the Kohen something which is not fitting, even during his tum'ah, which means we know that trumat me'ah, you're not allowed to eat at all. It's supposed to be burnt. And he's paying him back something which at least he could eat during his tum'ah, which is chulin to me, which means like this. One more time. Chulin. Is a Kohen allowed to eat chulin? Yes. Is a Kohen or a Yisrael allowed to eat chulin tameim? So mitzad ikar adin, you're allowed to. There's no issue, right? But even a Kohen, no. Chulin tameim, why not? It makes him tameh. But let's say he's not going to touch tuma now. After eating the chulin tameim, he goes to the mikveh, he does all the processes, he preserves. There's no isur. Right, so again, there's a special thing that you should never try to eat something which is tameh because you are what you eat. But that's musari. That's more of like of ethics. Mitzad halacha, somebody's allowed to eat chulin to me. It's chulin. It's not truma, right? It's not a kodshi. You understand? It's chulin. You're allowed to eat chulin to me. So he comes and he says, I don't understand you. This guy ate accidentally truma me'ah. Trumat me'ah, nobody's allowed to eat, not even the Kohen. You have to burn it. Now the guy comes, this Yisrael comes, and he pays back chulin to me. Chulin to me means, which is a better level, because he could eat it when he's tameh. There's no problem. So beforehand, he ate something which is trumat me'ah that he can never eat. And now he's paying back something which he could eat when he's tameh. So why isn't it not considered a good payback? So says Rava, you're right. We're lacking part of the bright, and this is what it means to say. Achal truma tme'ah. If somebody ate truma tme'ah, mishalem kol dehu. He could pay whatever he wants, whether it's tahor or tameh. Doesn't matter. You could pay back whatever you want, even chulin tamim. Achal truma teora. But if you ate pure truma, you have to pay back chulin tehunim. Right? Says the Gemara, however, what happens if he paid chulin tehunim? Mahu?
Why when he eat Teruma Teora, he can't give him Teruma Teora? Same thing.
He didn't have Teruma Teora. So he ate Teruma Teora, so now he could pay him back chulin tehunim.
That's the best. But let's say he wants to give Teruma
Teora, you could probably also pay back Teruma Teora. Here he's just saying though, but he's allowed to give him chulin tehunim.
Why is he allowed? I'm saying that's
because you would have thought to say no. So now achal Teruma Teora meshalem chulin tehunim. But if shilem chulin tehunim, what's the halacha? Sumchu says mishum b'mi b'shogeg tashumat tashuvin, it's going to be a good payment. B'mezid, it's not going to be a good payment. Chachamim say no, it's always going to be a good payment, but he has to pay back again chulin tehunim. Amar Ravacha bered Ravika, so says Ravacha bered Ravika. What? Yes, it's knas. Hacha bekansu shogeg atumezid. The machlok between them is: do you make a knas shogeg atumezid? Right? Why? Because basically, he's going to say that that do we make the knas or not? Rabbi says we don't make the knas. Chachamim say that we do make a knas. So therefore, that's what he says. That's what we understood that the Rabbi did not hold of a knas shogeg atumezid. The Rabbanan, and this is a stira. So says the Gemara, can you compare both cases? Hatam, to do with the perot tme'im b'shogeg, gavra l'shalume kamechaven. He wants to pay back that which he's obligated. So an adam kasher is coming, and he has to do everything that he can. Ana nekum liknese. So we are going to come and we're going to give him a knas on the shogeg? For sure not. Look at this guy. This guy is coming with a good intention. He ate fruits. He did it accidentally. He wants to pay back. So now, because he's doing something good and paying back something, we're going to shoot him in the leg and tell him, by the way, right, knas. Now you have to, Iowa, the guy's doing something good. He did an accident. He wants to pay back. He's coming. He's paying back. Now you're going to say, no, but we want to make a knas. Shogega to mezid. Doesn't make sense. That's what he's saying. Right? So fine. So Tashema, let's try to bring another proof then. Dam. When you have blood, shenitzma, right, that became tameh. Uzrako, and you threw it on the mizbeach. So imagine the Kohen receives the blood, all of a sudden it becomes tameh. And then he threw it onto the mizbeach. Beshogeg, if it was done accidentally, hurtza, it's going to the korban is going to be good, which means that it's going to receive the korban and everything. Bemezid, if it's going to be bemezid lo hurtza, it's not going to be accepted. Amar lo Rabbi Meir, says Rabbi Meir, hachi hashta. Can you compare both cases? Hata over there, gavra lechapure kamechaven. He says the Kohen is going to be mechaven to be mechaper on the balak korban. So he's doing a mitzvah. I know anan meikum v'nikensis. So we're going to give him knas. Meaning it's the same type of idea that basically like this. He says over there the Kohen is in the middle of trying to do an atonement. Now he accidentally came and he threw the blood on the mizbeach. He forgot that it was tameh, or he didn't know it was tameh. Whichever one that you want. Now you're going to come. You're going to give him a knas. Well, why in the world would you give somebody a knas for doing something good? It just doesn't make sense. So let's try to bring another proof. Tashema, hame'aser v'Shabbat. What happens if you took off ma'aser on Shabbat? We know you have to take off Turumot Masorot before Shabbat. How do you know?
State.
For state where?
I mean, the God said so. I think.
God said so.
No,
We read it in the
I made it up.
Bameh Malikin. You know what Bameh Malikin is, Richard? Every Friday night,
It's in the
this
it's in Beitza
Sfaradim,
here. It's in Beitza 36b.
right? So Bameh Malikin is a perek in Shabbat. Bameh Malikin, Bameh Malikin, Malikin. One of the Mishnayot there towards the end says, Shelosha devarim tzarich adam lomar betoch beto erev Shabbat im chashecha. There are three things that you have to say to your family members.
Right.
Erev Shabbat, right before Shekiah, you have to ask them, Isarten, did you take off Maaser? Why? Because you're not allowed to take off Maaser on Shabbat. You have to take off Maaser Erev Shabbat, before Shabbat. Right? You understood, doctor?
Exactly.
Yeah? We have to learn what we read. Because when we learn what we read, then all of a sudden, now I understand. Now I'm going to ask you a question. You have it. Yeah? You actually had, by the way, Kinyam Masechta, you had it in this week's. So Tashema, somebody's going to take off Maaser on Shabbat. Bishogeg Yochal. Bemezid Yochal. If he took it off by accident, he's allowed to eat it on Shabbat. But if he took it off Bemezid, he's not allowed to eat the rest of the perot on the Shabbat. So you see from here, right, we have a klal, that a stam mishnah is a bimir. So therefore here we don't make a knas shogega to mezid, right? So says the Gemara, hachi yasha, can you compare both cases? Hatam over there, gavra letekunu kamechaven, anu lekonu kense. We keep on bringing the same svarot, the same logic. This guy wants to fix something. You're going to give him a knas? Meaning, usually if somebody's doing something mundane and you want to give them a penalty, okay, so you give them a penalty. Here, he wants to fix the fruits. You're going to give him a knas, but he wants to fix the fruits? So obviously we're not going to give him a knas. So Tashema, another proof, Amabil kelim Shabbat. Right? Are you allowed to do tevilat kelim on Shabbat? And says also no. Right? You're fixing something. So you're not allowed to do tevilat kelim on Shabbat. So Amadbil kelim Shabbat. Bishogeg, if you did it accidentally, you're allowed to use them. Bimezid, if you did it purposely, you're allowed to use them. Says the Gemara, can you even compare both cases? Same thing. Hatam over there, Gavra letehure kamechaven, nane kamechaven. There, the person wants to be mitaher something. You want to purify this tevilat kelim. We're going to give you a knas. And again, it's always the same order of idea that always you're trying to do something good. So when you're trying to do something good, we're not going to give you a knas, right? The Rami, so then the Gemara finishes with Rabbi Meir. You're right. That means basically Rabbi Meir will never make a knas when you're doing something positive. Meaning, if stam, you're going to come and you're going to, cook on Shabbat or whatever, or so. But here we're talking about that, so that if you're doing something positive, why in the world would you come and start giving a knas if you're doing something positive? Meaning your mindset is to do something positive. We're not going to give you a knas for doing something good. Okay? Verami de Rabbi Yehuda. So we ask a stira from Rabbi Yehuda to Rabbi Yehuda. Bidrabbanan, we're talking about Rabbanan, right? That we're talking about that you put a knas on Isud Rabbanan Shogeg. They're talking about we learned to Raita Undala the Mubet 54b, right? Naflu. Imagine right now you have these egoze prach. They're different types of walnuts, but that they are orla and they are whole, they are full, complete, right? And they fell into 200 egozim which are comparable. Remember that batel b'shishim is by Yisur ve'eter, but to do with orla,
it's going to be good
it's
later.
1 in 200.
Oh, wait a minute, it's going to be good later. It should be completely yes, sir. Like it's eventually going to be good.
Says the Gemara, nitpatzeu, if they broke the egozim, whether it's a chat shogeg ve'chamezi, whether you accidentally broke them or they didn't, lo ya'alu, it does not become batel. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, these are words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Shimon say, b'shogeg, it's going to be batel. B'mezid, it's not going to be batel. Which means like this. Basically, these egoze prach are not batel afilu be'elef. Why? Because they're very, very chashuv. Something which is chashuv, right, is afilu be'elef lo batel. Even in 1,000, it's not going to be batel. But if they were broken and they're not batel anymore, it is batel in 200. Right, like any other fruits, which means that to do with orla is not like what I told you that it's batel b'shishim, it's in 1/60th, it's in 1 in 200. Okay, there are certain things that is 1 in 100, right? Orla is 1 in 200. Okay, so here basically what we're trying to say is that you have something which fell into 1 in 200. Okay,
so Chad B'Trei is 200 or Chad B'Trei is 1 in 2?
No, Echad B'Trei is 1 and 2, but that's not by Orla. Orla is Echad Matayim. Matayim is 200. Echad B'Trei is Isur Ve'eter, and it's dry. If it's Isur Ve'eter and it's a liquid, it's 60. For example, let's say you have 3 pieces of meat. 2 are kosher, 1's not kosher. It's Batel Berov. Why? Echad B'Trei Batel. 1 and 2 is going to be Batel, right? But that means you have 3 pieces. One of them was not kosher. It's going to be Batel, and the other 2. But that's in dry pieces of meat. But if it's in liquid, right, milk and meat or whatever it is, it's 60 times. Now, to do with orla, it's 200 times. Okay? So here, what happened though is that it's davar chashuv. Something which is chashuv, afilu be'elef lo batel. Even in something which, even if it's 1,000, it's not going to be batel because it's so important. So here, when this egoze prach fell inside, it fell inside something of 1 in 200. So technically, it would have been, but it's shalem. So since it's shalem and it's davar chashuv, afilu be'elef lo batel. Now, if it gets broken, now it's not chashuv anymore. So now, what happens if it broke? So now it should be batel echad. So the Gemara brought down, it's actually going to be a machloket whether it was done echad b'shogeg echad b'mezid. It's not going to be batel, or according to Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Shimon, if it's going to be b'shogeg, it's going to be batel. If it's going to be b'mezid, it's not going to be batel. Now in this case of orla, the midoraita chabitre batel. Midoraita, it's 1 in 200, right? Well, sorry, 1 in 2. What does that mean? Like any bitul berov, which means, right, b'derech klal, whenever we have echad bitrei, it's going to be, right, batel midoraita and everything. It's only that Chachamim come and they say that to do with truma, you need 1 in 100, right, the chadumea, right, and to do with kilei kerem, right, and orla, you need 1 in 200. So it's special halachot. Meaning like this, echad bitrei is in everything. 1 in 2. This is dry. This is not a liquid. This is dry. So echad bitrei batel min ha-Torah, right? From the Torah, from the Bible. We came and we were strict on certain things. So on Truma, it's 1 in 100. Orla and Kilei Kerem, 1 in 200. So what happens now, says the Gemara, 1 second, Midoraita, it's chad bitrei batel. For the Rabbanan the Gazul, right? And the rabbis were the ones that made the Knas. The Kanis of Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda came and he made a knas shogeg atu mezid. So you see from here that Rabbi Yehuda gives a knas shogeg atu mezid even mideb Rabbanan. So answers the Gemara. Hata ma'inu tama de Rabbi Yehuda there. What's the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda? Mishum deati lerume. Because right? What you're going to do is that if you're going to benefit, you're going to come and you're going to be matil isu b'mezid. And then you're going to say that you did a b'shogeg. Meaning like this. If I would tell you that you're allowed to benefit from it afterwards, what's going to happen is you're going to add it and, oops, I don't know what happened. It was accidentally, I added more. I wasn't thinking. I forgot that it was tameh. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, you want to be a smart aleck? It's always a soup. Ben b'shogeg, ben b'mezid, it's always a soup. That's
But
it.
no mission knas.
Well, that is the knas. The knas
You
is...
want to prove that Rabbi Yehuda is not knas.
No, so that's what we're saying. We're saying here we are giving a knas, but it's a special reason for a knas.
Okay,
Why?
but-
That's so that's why we give the knas, to make sure that nobody's going to come and start cheating out the system. You know how it is. At the second, yeah, I did it accidentally. Right? 1 second. Don't be so smart that you're doing it accidentally. You understand? The Rami did Rabbi Yosef, so we're going to ask contradiction. Rabbi Yosef. Why? We learned in the Mishnah, when you have a planting of orla or of kilei kerem, that gets mixed up with other orchards or other things, vineyards, and all these things, and you can't find out. Right? You're not allowed to come and grab from these fruits. Right? Why? Because you're not allowed to benefit from it. Because before it was orla or kilei kerem, you're not allowed to benefit from it. But if you did come and you get it, yalu, it's going to be okay. Even if you had the kavanah, it's still going to be okay. So you see from here that here Rabbi Yosef is not going to be giving a knas, even b'mezid. Here, even though you came and you had kavanah to take it, and I'm going to say, but Richard, it's orla. What are you doing? I don't care. You did it b'mezid. You're still allowed to eat it. Why? So what's going on? So answers Gemara. It was stated Amarava Chazaka and Adam will say Karmo benitiachat. It doesn't make sense that a person is going to come and he's going to prohibit his entire vineyard because of one thing of orla. It doesn't make sense. Meaning that a person, if he has a heter, why in the world for such a small isur he's going to prohibit everything? It doesn't make sense. So because of that, it's going to be okay. Also, Rabbi came and said, which means if a person has orla is a sur, everything else is permitted. It doesn't make sense. He's not going to make some siman or something on this orla to make sure that this is the only thing which is a sur. Because if he could have everything else be'eter, it doesn't make sense. If for one little thing, he's going to come and make everything a sur. It's not logical. Okay? Fine. Next Mishnah. HaKohanim shepiglu b'mikdash mezidin hayavim. So he said that if the Kohanim come and they make pigul in Bet HaMikdash, if they did it b'mezid, they're going to be hayavim. So Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a Baraita, hayao seimo b'taharot. If right now he was doing things b'tahara, yeah, so imagine a person is doing things tahara. And he tells him, Tarot the tarot that I did with you became impure. Right? Or he's a Kohen doing korbanot. And he tells him, everything became pigul. Ne'eman, he's going to be believed. But if he told him, he says it happened on a certain day, no. Meaning, if it's going to be on the same day, meaning he's still dealing with it, he's going to be believed. But if it's going to be on a certain day, he's, this day, a week ago. No, that doesn't help. What's the difference? Why is it that in one case he's believed, in another case he's not believed? Abaye says, Kol shebiyado ne'eman. What does that mean? If you have the opportunity to make a pigul or to make a tameh, so you're believed on what you're going to say right now. It's biyado. Biyado means that it's in your window of opportunity or it's in your power to do so.
It's a concept.
It's a concept, exactly, all over Shas. Meaning that if you have the power of doing something, I'm going to believe you because you can do it right now. If I can make your korban pigul, so you're believed. Why? Because right now you can make a pigul. If I could come and I could contaminate your things, I could make it right now contaminated. So I'm believed to say that, but that's only it's because biyado. I have the opportunity to do that now. So therefore, you're going to be believed when I'm going to do that. Okay? That was the first explanation. Second explanation, Rav Amar, Kegon de Ashkechev lo melomide, right? The case was in the Seifa that you found him, he didn't say anything. And afterwards, he found him, and then he said it was Tameh. Meaning, really, Be'emet, he's always believed. Even it's mashma, even if it wasn't biado. Yeah? Even if it's not biado, he's believed. But when do we say he's not believed? If the first time around he kept quiet. Meaning like this. Imagine I was dealing with the things, right, of the doctor. Yeah? And what happened is that I see him a week later or 2 days later, and I didn't say anything. The third day later, 3 days later, I come and I see the doctor. I said, doctor, by the way, that which we did, everything became pasul. Everything became pagul. Everything became, whether it's pigul or it became tameh. I saw you yesterday. Why didn't I tell you yesterday? So the fact that I saw you once and I kept quiet, right? That's why I'm not believed when I tell it to you the day afterwards. Meaning, if I would have told it to you immediately, even if it's not in my hand to do so anymore, I would still be believed. But the thing is, I saw you 2 days later, whatever it is, I didn't say anything. So now 3 days later, when I come and I tell you, by the way, I'm not believed. Right? Why? It could be that you didn't give me the good morning that I wanted. And all of a sudden I got all upset at you. So all of a sudden I come and I tell you, by the way, doctor, everything that we did was you understand? Okay. Next, there's a story to do with this. Somebody when he tells his friends, everything that I did with you on this certain day was tameh. So they came in front of Rabbi. Elmaleh, he tells him, Shurat Adina Ne'eman. Really, Be'emet, he's not believed. Elmaleh for Rabbi tells him, Rabbi, what, this is what you say? That he's not believed? But this is what Rabbi Yochanan says, name Rabbi Yosef. What am I going to do? That the Torah believed him. Right? The Torah believed him. If he's going to come and he's going to tell the owners that it was ruined after Zman, after time, he's believed, even though he doesn't have the adot to make it bad right now. So says the Gemara, where did the Torah believe him in such a case? So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Bisna says Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Bisna, Kohen Gadol b'Yom Kippurim yochiach. A Kohen Gadol on Kippur. Techia Amar Pigul, if he says that it was Pigul, Meheman, he's going to be believed. Right? Which means, right, that if he says that the part of the Sayyid became Pigul, he's believed. Umena Yadina, how do we know that he's going to be believed? Nobody's allowed to be in the Ba'al Moed. So if nobody's allowed, how do they know they became Pigul? Because we believe him. So you see from here that the Torah believes somebody come saying that it's not, it wasn't kosher. So says the Gemara, the Dilma de Shavne de Pagel. Maybe we're going to say that it became Pigul because we heard it. We heard him say it. Meaning from far, we came and we heard him saying, I'm going to sprinkle this blood at the not proper time, or I'm going to eat it at the not proper time. And therefore, once we heard it.
In the Kodesh Kadosh, nobody can hear it.
What? Why? He said it b'kol ram. He said it out loud.
But he's in the Holy of Holies. Who can hear him? Oh, never mind.
Yeah, that's what it says over here. Let's see over here. Okay, here it speaks about the entire concept of pigul b'machshava and all these things. Okay, so here it says ilav de mehem and afagad the So says it in 1 second. But if we wouldn't have believed him, even though we would have listened to it, we wouldn't have believed him. The dilma because maybe he did it afterwards, meaning we only heard what he was saying after he finished the avodah. Meaning like this. Richard did mention something important. Nobody's there with him. So if nobody's there with him, maybe he did everything properly. And then afterwards he comes and he says out loud, I'm going to do this like this.
Yeah.
But he already did it. He did it properly. So therefore, even though we heard him say that he did pigul, we still wouldn't have believed him. Because maybe he did it after he did everything. So it has to be that we believe him.
It's not biyado.
No. It says maybe we're going to say that the korban became pigul because he was doing his actions through the pishpesh. You remember that the pishpesh is a small little tiny hole that was in the wall of the Hechal. And there we can actually come and we can actually see, right? We can actually see, right?
What's going on?
What's going on, and we could see what's going on. Kashi, it's a good question. But technically speaking, if we're sneaking up on him looking for the people, there's no issue. You didn't do anything wrong. So you technically, it's a good question. Fine, next story. How that Rabbi Yami? Somebody came to Rabbi Yami and he tells him, Sefer Torah shekatabti leploni, azkarot shelo lo nichtav. Imagine right now he comes to write the Sefer Torah, and then he says, everything that we wrote in the Sefer Torah, it's not going to be lishman. Elmaleh, he comes and he says, Sefer Torah biyad mi. Who's the Sefer Torah in the hands of me? Elmaleh, he says, biyad alokeach, in the hand of the lokeach. Amarlo, he says, you're going to be believed to come and to lose your schar. But you're not allowed to make bad the Sefer Torah, which means like this. Imagine the sofer comes and he says, it's not kosher. You know what happens? Fine, it's not kosher. We don't have to pay you. But the Sefer Torah is still kosher. You understood? Meaning, to do this payment, I'm going to believe you. It wasn't kosher, I don't have to pay you. But to do with the Sefer Torah in itself, I don't believe you. It's a kosher Sefer Torah. I look at the Sefer Torah, I see everything kosher. Now you're telling me that when you wrote the Askarot, you wrote the name of Hashem. Askarot is the names of Hashem. Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? When you wrote them, you didn't write them lishma. He says that I don't believe you. So Elmaleh, Rabbi Yirmiyah comes and he says, Nehid yifsid schar Askarot, schar Sefer Torah kulem yifsid. So 1 second. So just don't pay him for all the Askarot. You should still pay him for the Sefer Torah. Pay him for the Sefer Torah. He did all the work of the Sefer Torah. That was fine. You're right. The names of Hashem is a problem. But everything else was still okay. Elmaleh tells him, you're right. He says, no. Why? Any Sefer Torah that doesn't have good askarot, it's worthless piece of paper.
He says here they're going to rewrite the names of Hashem, Lishman.
Yes, 100%. But according to Rabbi Yirmiyah, he says no. Because he says that you cannot fix it. The Gemara is going to explain why. The Gemara is going to ask. To like what Richard just said. Pass over the names again with a kulmus. Make it holy. So says the Gemara, who does this go like? Name of the Lord Rabbi Yehuda. It's not like Rabbi Yehuda. The time was going to write the Aresha. Imagine you have to write Yud Kei Vav Kei. Then it's Kavin Lichtov Yehuda, and you had the Kavanah to write down Yehuda, and you made a mistake and you didn't write down the Dalet of Yehuda, so you did write down that Yud Kei Vav Kei. Ma'avir elav kulmus umikadsho. So you could come, be over Ma'avir the kulmus, and you're going to sanctify it. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Chachamim come and they say, En Hashem in Muvchar. This is not good, and therefore you cannot fix the Shem by doing that. So if you didn't have the proper kavanah, so you see from here that this psak is going with that Chachamim and not like Rabbi Yehuda then obviously. Because if it was according to Rabbi Yehuda, like Richard said, just go over the names again. But this is going according to the rabbis that it doesn't help to go over the names. So says the Gemara, no, even if you want, you could still say it's according to Rabbi Yehuda. Filutim Rabbi Yehuda, Akal lo kam Rabbi Yehuda. When did Rabbi Yehuda say that? B'chad haskara, only if one of the names were bad. Aval dekule Sefer Torah. But if every name in the Sefer Torah is not good, no, he never said that. Because it looks like it's patched. It looks like it's a leopard. A leopard has one black spot, meaning like this. If you come, and imagine right now, I've got this entire room painted, right? It's all painted white. I come and there's little marks. So I put a patch here, a patch there, a patch there. You could tell the difference between the new paint and the old paint. And the fact that you could tell the difference between the new paint and the old paint, right? So therefore, that's why he says it looks like spotted. So same thing, when they came and they had to put the names of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, every single time they had to rewrite it, it looks like Menumah. It looks like it was, you understand? It looks like Menumah.
Another story.
Somebody came in front of Rabbi Yehu. Elmaleh, and he told the Sefer Torah shekatabti leploni Gvilin shelo, the Gvilin, no ibatim nishman. I didn't do the nishma. Elmaleh, he says, Sefer Torah b'yami, who has the Sefer Torah right now? Elmaleh, he says, b'yad halokeach, the purchaser. Elmaleh, he says, mitoch she'ata ne'eman lefsid scharecha, since you're believed to lose your own sachar, ata ne'eman lefsid Sefer Torah, so therefore you're going to be believed. Let me see. Yeah, but it's a migu. Meaning the migu is that the fact that you're believed to lose your reward, so you're also believed to lose.
That goes against
right?
what we just learned.
A minute. Asa Gemara, u'maishnami de Rabbi Yami. What's the difference between Rabbi Yami? Rabbi Yami said, no, you're believed to lose your schar, but you're not believed to make a Sefer Torah pasul. Answers the Gemara, Hatamika lemeimar. Top of 55a, yes. On the top. It says, Hatam over there, Ika lemeimar, I'm going to say bid Rabbi Yirmiyah. What does that mean, Rabbi Yirmiyah? I'm going to say that the Sofer Bemet, he wrote all the Askarot Lishma. He did write it Lishma. Right? But he lied in order to make the other guy suffer because he thought that he wasn't going to lose from it. Right? And he only thought he was going to lose a few pennies. Just like Rabbi Yirmiyah said. Hacha, but over here, since he's losing everything, I'm going to come in and going to say, maybe he told the truth. Meaning like this, in the other case, he just said the askarot were not done lishma. So even if he's going to lose some money, he's thinking, how much money am I going to lose? The majority of the Sefer Torah are the names of Hashem? No. Right? Okay, so let's say what? 5% are the names of Hashem? Right? 10%? How much already is the names of Hashem? So he thought he's going to lose a little bit. So big deal. Okay, fine. Here, right, when he comes and he says, well, you're going to check it out.
No payment at all.
He says he's going to get no money at all. If he's going to go out to the kach and not get no money at all, so we're saying, no, I would believe him in such a case. Because here we know that he's actually losing on all the money.